Well, I'm right here in front of the ranger house, Big Greenbrier, and we're going to walk up Injune Creek today and visit my ancestors' old home places. Wiley Price had a big house that sat right here in the old days, and we're going to walk up the road here and go up the old trail. Now, this old road bed, I've walked up it many a time from Ranger House and up this old road bed, but probably nothing compared to how many times my ancestors rode a wagon up and down it and walked up and down it. But right here at the park's got their little warning sign about no dogs or anything like that on the trail. But right over there, Lee Price had a house. That little small ridge there. My great uncle Arthur lived around that corner up there, up at the called Thurman branch. And of course this ridge trailed up to here, called James Ridge. Dallas James used to have a little shack up at the gap, at Bear Pen Gap. But anyway, we're going to walk up the creek today and had a lot of history. Well, we come to our first clearing as we walk up the creek, probably about a quarter mile from the ranger house. And this open field right here, this trail actually walks out to the middle of where the Glenn Carvel's daddy's house set. And the house literally set right here. And Jimmy's knocked down right there, but literally walk out to the middle of the house. The old road's down next to the creek. And of course, Glenn's was mayor of Pittman Center and knows a lot about this area as well. Spent about 2.5 hours with him the other day, and we talked about a lot of things. It was a fun afternoon. Anyway, this is where his dad lived at one time before he moved out next to 321 across from Hills Creek. There's other people live here too, and when I do the Wilderness Week, which I'm going to be speaking at this year, I'm going to cover how Greenbrier changed from 1830 to 1930, and we'll cover this area a little bit too. But walking up here to the spring house, and there's a really pretty spring house just about 10 yards off the trail, and it's one of the many places that families used to live up Injune Creek. You might say, well, Mike, how did I find that car? Believe it or not, you can see the rock wall here, and this is the old road bed. It's kind of ugly. One time I was on top of this hill, and I said, I'm going to walk the road bed all the way down, skip the park trail, which kind of, some people think would be crazy. But that's how I came down here and found the old car. So when you're off-trail exploring area, and you hike as many times as I do, you pretty much check out every little area you can find. Walked up a steep little bank here about 50 yards and came out through here to the woods, and down there's where I talked about that little barn used to sit, and come to one of my favorite little sacred places. Got this young grave here, a child that was my grandma's Aunt Sally. At least that's what she called her. It could be her great aunt. I mean, I still call my great Uncle Dilly Uncle Dilly. But I remember that tree right there fell across this whole thing, and I talked to Parker to come up here and clean this off because it was pretty overgrown about 20 years ago. Now a lot of people walk up here to it. And when the leaves are down, you can see the Greenbrier Pinnacle back that way. Matter of fact, every cemetery in Greenbrier, you can just about every one of them, you can see the pinnacle, facing the east, of course. Anyway, there's a possibility of a few other graves here as well. So right here, just to the right of Injune Creek, we're going to walk over here to where Ormby lived, in a big tree I call barn tree because it didn't get cut down because it was right next to the barn, in this case right next to the spring house. Well, I've cut straight across through the woods here, about 100 yards, and here's the old John Nelson Army place, and got a little rock foundation in front of the house, and the bank dug out right here behind it, and that's his. He was a school teacher at a little schoolhouse that sat across the creek for a couple of years, and his married to one of Frederick Husky's daughters. Right up that little wet branch side of this place is the biggest tree up Injune Creek. We'll walk up there next. I've come about 50 yards up the tiny wet branch. The spring house used to be right down in there, and of course there's my big barn tree. A little small barn sitting here right behind it. Come around the other side of my big Injune Creek tree. You can tell that's a pretty big tree for this neck of the woods. The barn sit right in here. I've come back down to the woods, past the big tree, past the home place. There's actually a couple of impressions here on the ground where the outhouse is set. And walk over here back in our park trail. Well, it's a man-way trail, but it's about as good as any park trail. We're going to walk across a little muddy area right here. And when they built the Ranger house, they put in modern plumbing. So you see a pipe right there. You can see a small dam right here. This was a tub mill before that. And then later it was actually a bridge across here. Used to be able to drive 2 planks across, get in that field. Of course, this is Injune Creek, about 50 yards below our second footbridge. And you can still see the gate there, release the water. And the piping here. There's actually pipe laying all down the creek between here and the Ranger house. Of course, they no longer use this source. So we're right here at our 3rd footbridge. The road actually forks. One goes up the creek, one went straight across that field. That's what I call Little Parton Holler. Before the Partons lived there, the Lowe's lived there. And there's a trail up behind the house up there to take you up top of Great Broad Ridge and over to Myers Hollow too. Come on up the trail and coming to the place where our next footbridge is. This is actually where Injune Creek forks. There's a right fork up that way. And across the field over there, some big rock cairns. You'll see it as the leaves die down. And right there's the beginning of where my great-grandpa's apple orchard started. Up that field, that side of the ridge. There's that pretty rock wall on up the trail above the place. About the only section in Injune Creek that has a real pretty rock wall. Section of real pretty rock wall along the old road bed. It's done, the dirt's filled in behind it. And just past this rock wall, it's hard to see it, but there's actually a trail that goes down to that ugly road. Goes up in a little gap back in there. There's a home place back in there, and that's where Nathaniel Spradling lived before he moved to Case Cove. We're going to continue on up the old road bed. We continue on up the trail, and we finally get this little fork in the trail right here. And this is actually where Wes Rayfield's house sit. And that's going up Injune Creek, and this goes over to the E. McCarter, the old Owenby Cemetery, up that right branch, right hollow of the creek. And that's land that my great-grandmother owned up in that area. And up Injune Creek, it's about a quarter-mile walk back over here to the, now we're back to the right fork of Injune Creek, the wet branch that I talked about. We got a little tiny footbridge right here. And E. McCarter's place, Ephraim Earl McCarter's house, right back in there. And this field is in early spring, just full of purple flowers. And this place actually has 2 spring houses, one cut in the bank on this side, and one cut a little bit further up the creek. Now our cemetery is right up here in this little knob right up here. Walked up here just a little bit further up the trail. Like I said, right back in there is where E. McCarter's house sat. This is a big holler. There's actually a road bed on the bank here. It goes on up to where Walter McCarr lived, where my great-grandmother Sharon Miriam Ormby lived. One time she owned this whole holler. She sold it to part of E.E. McCarter, who came across the ridge, Grapeyard Ridge, from Dad's Creek over in Dudley. But anyways, then that road goes up the bank, and way up on the right side in the old days, it actually hooked into the Grapeyard Ridge Trail, and that's where Columbus Green, who was married to E.E.'s daughter, lived for a short time before he moved back over to Socash. And right here used to be a little shed or a chicken coop or something. And our trail cuts to the right up here to go to the cemetery. You walk up through a rhodo thicket, a little tunnel here, nice little worn trail, about 40 yards up a hill. And you come to one of my favorite little cemeteries in the national park. Known as the E.E. McCarter Cemetery in all the cemetery books, but it's actually the old Ormby Cemetery. And there's a Stiles girl buried there. Never figured out why she's here, because most of the Stiles lived at 321 past Cobby Knob, but she must have been traveling through to died here, and they buried her here, or visiting somebody here. Down in the bottom section is pretty much all of E.E. McCarter's, some of his kids, and up in the back I've actually got an uncle buried, Russell Cantrell. So let's just walk around a little bit. My lens is fogging up a little bit due to the humidity here with the drizzling rain. And again, when the leaves are down, you can see the pinnacle back that way. Just one of many cemeteries in Big Greenbrier. So we come up the field a little bit past the fork. The E.E. McCarter Cemetery is back that way, and come up the little quick little ways, and you can start seeing fence posts along the back side of Injune Creek in a big field back here to the left. I'm not going to walk over there because it's starting to rain a little harder, but my grandpa's place is right back here on the right. You can find the fallen chimney and the spring house there behind it. There's a little gap in James Ridge back there where Mary and Ormby lived, and then he also lived in my grandpa's house for a while. And up here at the back side of the field is a little flat spot with a big tree falling across it looks like a little rock pile, but it's another small cabin, fallen chimney, where my great uncle Dilly Cantrell moved over from behind Dodge and Rayfield Cemetery, moved down here to take care of Grandpa's place while he went with his boys over to Lewis Trenham's house in Elkmont to work the timber business. But the whole place right there had about 165 apple trees up through there. So we made it to my grandpa's place. I'm not going to walk over in all that stuff today, but I've got other pictures I can post from the video. So we came to Grandpa's place, and once he moved out of the park, he only came back to it one time. My mother actually drove an old truck up this roadbed, and they come up here and picked what was left of the apples. Look who I found out here walking in this crazy rainy day.
These crazy people I met.
Bunch of people from our Facebook page from Michigan.
Yeah.
And now they got to put up with me for a few hours. We're going to have a bunch of fun. Florida, Michigan.
Florida. That one's kind of Ohio, but we don't.
But today they're young mountain Jedis in training.